could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello, everyone. So we're meeting Lori and Barry. They both founders of Rock Solid Company in United Kingdom. And I just want to introduce both of you today. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
more than
Thank
welcome.
you for having us, Anna. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. And let's start a conversation with diving into your personal journey of becoming people you are today. How did it start for you? What led you to discover your true passion in life?
Do you want me to go?
You go first.
Well, we started Rock Solid because I was medically retired. I'm a former police officer and counter-terrorism intelligence officer, and I was medically retired with my diagnosis of bipolar and OCD, and that was 10 years ago. And literally on the day I was medically retired, on the 1st of June, and on the 2nd of June we started Rock Solid. And really, it comes from a passion of us looking after ourselves. We know the benefits of staying mentally, physically, emotionally well, and we wanted to create that for other people, and especially business owners, because so many business owners are not living the life that they say they are on Instagram, or doing what they want to do because they're burnt out and stressed out.
Yeah,
but you're a different route.
Yeah, I've been into health and I've been into fitness ever since I come out of the womb. I cannot remember when I weren't playing sport or doing some sort of fitness activity. And throughout my journey in the work environment, I started off as a fitness instructor, personal trainer. I left there and I joined the prison service. So Her Majesty's Prison Service, I'd done 10 years within there. But within the first 3 years, I knew that I still had that burning desire, that love to do the fitness, the health, the well-being. So I specialized within the prison service as a PTI, physical training instructor, where I taught the prisoners all the qualifications to have the personal training skills, the fitness instructor skills, and the sports therapy as well. And in that role, I headed up the well-being team in there as well. But as Loz says, she left the police due to medical retirement, and we set up Rock Solid. So I was doing a bit of both jobs. I was doing the prison service as well as doing the Rock Solid. And it got to the point where I thought, do I just help Loz out running Rock Solid, or do I leave the prison service and we go full steam and see what we can create with Rock Solid? And so I left the prison service, and we've been doing it for 10 years now with Rock Solid, and we are a global business now. We've got clients all over the US and the UK, and it's just growing and growing and growing. We're working with corporates, and we're doing so many good things now to help people with their health and well-being.
Yeah, that's great. And you told me that it started with you working and finding out that it was like too much. It was like burnout, and you realized that you needed to shift your direction to create something that will bring you fulfillment, as well as helping others on a journey to wellness. And some people don't realize that wellness comes from different areas of your life. It's not just physical, but emotional, mental. And I know you do this assessment on your website where you kind of like screen what people feel nowadays, like how burned out are they? And they don't really realize that until they kind of start asking those questions and coming up with results, and then they really shocked what's going on, and with them like diving into their own emotional kind of struggles, it helps them to connect on a deeper level. And especially like with tools available and people out there like your company that helping others with different tools, and everything is kind of like up to us to reach out for help and be willing to change and to bring ourselves to that place of fulfillment. What do you think are the most, kind of like important focus for all people in United Kingdom, in United States, a lot of people like just, working 40, 50 hours a week all the time. So it's kind of considered normal, and they come to the place where it's just automatic for them, and they don't stop and ask questions. Why am I doing this? And is it really like something that eventually will give me that kind of happiness? And what are the simple steps that you would advise them to tune into on a daily basis as maybe part of the daily habit routines that they could incorporate in their busy lifestyles? And maybe this is something they will, they think about doing as a practice all the time and help them to achieve that next level.
Yeah. For me, the first port of call is boundaries, without a shadow of a doubt. So many business owners don't have boundaries. If somebody was to walk into your garden, it wasn't a postman, it wasn't a gardener, it wasn't anybody who you expect to be there, you would probably shout out the window and say, "Oi, what you doing?" And you would challenge them on that boundary. But the problem is, as a business owner, we say yes too often because we need the money, or we don't want to let somebody down, or deep down within us, we feel that we need to serve people and keep serving people because we're trying to fulfill some sort of thing where we don't feel we're enough or something. So I think definitely for me, we need to have boundaries around your morning routine, your evening routine, the times that you spend with your family, the stuff that you do to de-stress and that you love and enjoy, so you don't just become the business, So definitely for me, that would be boundaries. It's the first port of call on the energized leadership, second to understanding your symptoms and triggers, isn't it?
And I'd second that. It is boundaries. If we haven't got boundaries, then we've got no area where we can understand ourselves. It's just we let anyone walk all over us, and we've got to have our own boundaries around our own selves so we can look after ourselves, more importantly, because if we don't look after ourselves, then we don't have a business at the end of the day, because we need our internal energies and our internal energy force, shall we say, to power through these businesses and work through the hard times. So I would say we need to look at our boundaries and look after our internal health and our internal well-being.
Because I don't know about you, Anna, but I know so many people, I don't know, maybe you do this, maybe you don't, but like as soon as they wake up, they're on their emails, and then they get that, oh, I've got so many emails, and I didn't reply to that person, and this customer's bitching, or whatever it is. And immediately you wake up with stress. And then when you go to bed at night, the last thing you do is check your emails, and then, you're like, oh yeah, I need to do that tomorrow. And then your mind is just full of stuff that you've got to do. And, that compounded, really does tire you out to one day you just go snap. Like happened with us 2017. I hit the biggest burnout and we nearly lost rock solid, didn't we?
And I think you hit the nail on the head where people don't understand what burnout is, but you understand it when it hits you, and it knocks you down, kicks you in the backside. And we need to take a step back to understand our energy levels. Am I feeling low? Have I got the energy to push through? Am I resilient? Am I getting ill? Am I getting sick all the time? And these are signs and symptoms that you're running on a depleted battery level, and we need to start looking at that, paying attention to it.
Right. And usually burnout happens quickly without, us preparing for it. It's just kind of like unexpected. And we, with our choices, bring it to the point where it's like no return after that. We just feel like there is nothing we can do at this point, but it could have been prevented in the first place with all of those different techniques and habits instilled, knowing that we need to recharge, we need to replenish our energy to first and most of all, to feed ourselves and to refuel and have that energy to give back to others. And without us first prioritizing our mental and physical health, anything else falls apart. So we always overwhelmed with thinking about bigger goals and purposes and serving others. But we first have to think about how we the place where we can give to others.
Yeah.
So that's the first important step for people to kind of like look into and be mindful that with all those daily habits that we do, it's kind of like it's just automatically brings us to that place. So like you mentioned, checking emails, it's just something everybody does, but we don't think about it. Like all social media, so much distraction around, like, and again, how do you utilize that social media? It's up to you, because it could be beneficial or it could be destructive. Again, like you have to limit your kind of like time that you spend outside of what's important for you, like if you're willing to spend that time on social media or talking to others, is it gonna be beneficial in the end? And it should be like both ways, not just you giving out that energy, but you have to replenish it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like with setting boundaries, I feel like a lot of people kind of like say yes to everything, and they feel obligated or like guilty for not kind of like saying yes or agreeing to certain things or like propositions. But again, like, why are you saying yes? Is it something that you really want to do? Do you have a desire to do it? Do you feel like it will bring you some kind of like benefits? Or you're just saying because you feel guilty not to say no? So we have to train ourselves to know that it's okay to kind of like first think about yourself, but then if you have time and energy, then like schedule something to give others and to spend time with them. So that's a very important step as well.
That was one of the biggest lessons I learned when I was in the prison service, to say no. Because if you kept saying yes, and they would ask more and more and more of you, and the boundaries disappeared. We didn't have boundaries. But as soon as you put your foot down and said no, they was like, whoa, that person just said no. And then you've created a boundary, and they know where to push. They know how far to push you, and they know what you can ask. But if you do say yes, make sure you follow through and complete your task. This is why we have to learn to say no. So it gives us space, and we can give that person who we do say yes to quality.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Loz are about. We're about a quality service. We want to give our best to people. So sometimes we do have to say no.
We say no.
Because think of it like a champagne tower. We're at the top of that champagne tower. If we don't fill our glass up, then nobody else is going to get anything underneath us. If I fill my cup up first, then everything that I've got, it cascades down, it ripples out. So I can give that energy to other people. So it's so important that we look after ourselves first and foremost, then we can start giving out to other people.
And I think, one thing that you said there, Anna, as well, in terms of, our energy, when we're giving all the time, we haven't got any boundaries. We then start to see everybody else doing all the things that you want to do. And then it's very easy to slip into mental burnout, which is where we start to get a bit judgmental, negative, cynical, angry outbursts, starting to see the world in a negative way. And that's just toxic for a business, especially if you're in a service-based business. Do you know what I mean? And so, as Baz said, in order for us to be able to give back and say yes, we need to be the champagne glass at the top of the tower. Because when you pour that and you keep on pouring that and keep on pouring that, it cascades down to each of the levels. And, some people say they feel guilty saying no, especially like mummy guilt, to the kids and bits and pieces. But what you've got to ask yourself is, when you take a little bit of time for yourself, when you have a bubble bath or you go for a walk or you put a face mask on, you have 5 minutes on your own and you make that deal with yourself that this is your time, will you show up as a better mum? Will you show up as a better business owner? Will you have more ideas? Will you be able to get your job done a lot quicker? Probably yes. So, in actual fact, taking that time will pay dividends 10 times.
Right. And like you just mentioned about quality, it's more about you showing up at your best quality over quantity. You don't want to like just show to, you know, that you're available all the time, but when you are available, you are at your best. And also with boundaries, you treating other people, you know, you showing them how you want to be treated, pretty much. So you are also, you know, a human being with your own needs, and it's okay to take time for yourself. It's kind of like essential to do it. So we have to switch our mindset to not feeling any type of guilt, but knowing that to nourish our mind and body, it just comes in first. And this is the way it is. And I don't have to apologize for it. It's just, you know, it's everybody's routine, and it should be that way. So if I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up at my best. And yeah, and I like that analogy with the champagne and glasses. That's exactly what it is. And we should be mindful of how we're spending our time, and if that's a really good quality time. And also, I know you are the authors of the books for children, and I want to like mention that it's more about how we teach our children what kind of food we eat and what is beneficial and healthy in terms of fueling our body and mind. If you can elaborate on what exactly you know, what is behind those books and what is the ideas that you delivered.
So we decided to write the children's book because we felt that if you can start at the bottom, okay, then, you know, as they then get older, they're going to be fitter, healthier. It's obviously going to release the strain on the NHS, and, you know, they're going to be able to live fulfilling lives. And yeah, we wrote a children's book. It was the Adventures of the Good Food Gang. And we taught 5,000 kids in schools with me and Jess, didn't we, as a kind of a team. But one big thing we've really found is, yeah, you can teach the kids, yeah, you can go into school, yeah, you can give them the education. But the key issue is when they go home, who's supporting them in that? Because kids are mini blueprints of you. If you're emotional eating, if you haven't got time for them, if you're snappy, if you're cranky, if you're going to bed late and, you know, not telling them, and, you know, and you're being a friend to your kid or whatever it is, rather than a parent, that blueprint is going to carry over onto them. So it's brilliant to go into the schools and do all this work, but you have to remember that you're the blueprint for your child. Your kid picks up on everything. We'll have clients come to us, they're like, oh, you know, I'm really stressed, but I don't let the kids see it. And I'm like, they do. They know. They're not stupid. They see everything.
Even if they don't see it, they feel that energy, and that energy is transferable into that child. And I think this is what we got to be careful of. It's not just going into the schools and educating. I would love to go into the schools again and bring the parents in so we can actually educate them as a family. And I think once we get in there and do that as a family, then we can create some proper changes within our society when it comes to food. Because there were some children in there when we said, where does chips come from? You call them fries in America. So where do they come from? We thought they'd say potatoes, but they were saying from McDonald's, and they were saying from the fast food shops. And we was like, really? And this was the education that we was finding in the school. So we went in there and we started talking to them about where their food comes and how the food affects their body. So we was talking about how carbohydrates gives us energy, how protein builds muscles and helps cells. And we was talking about fats, how it regulates our hormones and stuff like that. So we were giving them basic information about what the food does. But more importantly, it was where is the food coming from and how can we use that food in our diets?
It was shocking, some of the things that we saw. Some of the kids didn't know that food comes from natural sources. It just comes from a packet, like, you know, from the freezer. You know, but again, the education needs to be on the parents. But I think if schools, you know, kind of decided to drop the whole, you have to learn science, English and maths, and I get that, you need to learn that, but I think there's so many more life value skills like food and money. You know, money and confidence and self-esteem. If they was to put that in, I think we would have a much better rounded education system.
Right. I think we should focus more on preparing our kids with really like practical, skills to go into life. Like you just mentioned, how to be confident, how to create my own business. What do I need to have in terms of like, like how can I replenish my energy? Let's say like mental, physical health. What should I eat? And again, like sources of food, they matter. And well, we don't want our kids to have processed food. We just want to educate that whole foods are more, beneficial for them. They have all types of nutrients that, our body needs to function. And it's just missing that type of education from school. Maybe that's why, like, we become teachers as well as parents, and we also have to do it not just by saying, but showing as example. Our kids learn by seeing us doing things. You can say whatever you want, but if you eat junk food and you say about healthy, they're going to continue eating junk food.
Yes.
So like, it has to be also on our mind. Whatever we do, they watching us all the time, they feeling us all the time. And not just like seeing that example, also like with our emotional state, like how we interact with them, they're also picking up those vibes, and they know when you're upset, when you're sad, or like if you're trying to be encouraging, then you have to kind of show up at your best again, as a teacher, as a parent. So being that kind of like person that not just in professional space, but also like at home, as as a parent, you have to educate your young ones and set up the example for them of what's possible, of what is important. And that comes from childhood all the time. And again, like some kids have it, some don't, but we can change it. And that's why we are starting talking more about mental health nowadays, because that's where it comes from. Usually it translates into physical, because our kind of like mental space, that's where it starts from, like all those thoughts and negative talking to ourselves. We need to find a way to kind of like improve our ability to choose what we're thinking, and to know that we can make that choice. And that's why like all those practices come into like our daily life, because we need to see how we can make this life better together, and with us working it as a team, it will become so much better. Is there any advice you want to give our listeners to kind of be always on top of, having the best type of energy on a daily basis? I would say like morning routine, like when they wake up, what the first thing they should be like thinking of or like focusing on that will give them that fuel to rest for the whole day and to accomplish their goals and like set up whatever they set up for themselves, and maybe something that will help them to have that energy to accomplish everything.
Can we go first?
Yeah, go.
I'm going to give your listeners and your viewers some golden nuggets today. And
Here we go.
It's about changing your language. So when you get up in the morning, don't think I have to get up, I have to have a shower, I have to have breakfast, I have to go to work. Change the word I have to I get to. I get to get up this morning. I get to have a shower. I get to have my breakfast. I get to go to work. Just by changing the I have to I get to, it is a massive game changer for your energy. It changes the way you see your life and the way you see the world around you.
Yeah.
Change it from have to get.
And I think it's definitely about what you're inputting. So are you getting up in the morning and thinking, it's so early, and then you go downstairs and you listen to the news and it's all doom and gloom, so when you get up in the morning, expose yourself to sunlight first thing, or just look out the window, get that light in your face, because that will help with the melatonin release 16 hours later, which will help you to sleep better. Make sure you have you sit down. If you eat breakfast, sit down and eat your breakfast. Don't run around with the curlers in your hair and the toast hanging out your mouth and, you know, the coffee on a drip. Definitely do that. And the other thing I would say would be language. So our language is so important. You know, what we say creates our reality. I have a little practice in the morning where I do a journaling practice, and I literally spend 5 minutes, I time it 2.5 minutes each, where I write down all of the words that I am going to repel or not say today. So there'll be things like negative, demotivated, I can't, I won't, things that are really kind of more negative based words: stressed, overwhelmed, worry, frustrated, all those boring words. And then I write down, what are the words that I'm going to invite today? So positive, expansion, optimism, abundance, gratitude, faith, hope, love, all of these things. And what that does is it starts to change your language in your head. So when you start to go about your day, you're then speaking into creation what it is you want to create, rather than just rubbish, you know, coming out. There's loads of different things: movement, cold showers, you know, all these sorts of things. But it's very much, you need to look at maybe where you're struggling mentally, physically, or emotionally with your burnout, and then looking at what it is you most need to interject there, you know, to be able to remedy whatever is going on for you.
Yeah, and we need to know that we are the creators of our daily experiences, and the way we start our day matters, and how we talk to ourselves matters. So we should always be mindful of that. And again, I hope people will take notes and try to implement those habits in the daily routine. But I'm so glad we had a conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.